Welcome back to the shop, guys. We just picked up this beautiful Bobcat S205 and it's got a bad drive motor. Now I've already been through the troubleshooting process and diagnosed the drive motor, so now what we got to do is pull it out and see if that drive motor is rebuildable or if we're going to have to replace it or get a reman or something like that. When I pulled off the case drain filter, that's usually how we kind of tell what condition that motor's in. The case drain filter was kind of full of plasticky material, which makes me think that a seal inside the motor went bad. So hopefully we'll check the gerotor and see if it's not damaged to a point where we can't repair it. But first thing we got to do is get the motor out. So I've already got the cab lifted up, got the arms in the air, got my support lock in there, and I've got the machine raised off the ground. So now I've got to get the tires off and get the side cover off to get to the motor. Let's get right to it. Alright, so now I've got the side cover removed. Single speed drive motor, so it's really easy. All we got is our two drive lines, main motor hydraulic lines, and then a case drain line behind that. And I've already got all those disconnected, so now all we've got is the 4 bolts that hold the motor in, which are these right here. Now these are a 12 point, maybe hard to see because all the dirt and grease, but 12 point, you can use a 1/2 inch or 13 millimeter socket to pull that out. And that's it. Now we can slide our motor out. All right, and here's our motor. You can already see the front seal is bad, but all right, let's go take this apart. That's what you're here for anyways, I'm sure. So we've got the drive motor out of the machine now, and I went ahead and cleaned it up, and I'm working in a concrete mixing tub. This is a concrete mixing tub that you get from like Home Depot. I love tearing down pumps and motors and stuff in these tubs because all your parts stay together. You can put some oil dry mat down there to catch whatever oil dry. Before I break these motors apart, I always scribe a line. You can see here, I actually painted it so you can see it, but usually I just scribe it, you know, with a sharp pick or chisel. That way I know which, you know, way all the pieces go back together. Just help you, you know, if you've never tore one apart. Again, got all these broke loose. 12 point, 7/16 or an 11 millimeter. On your impact, we'll get all these bolts out, and then we'll slowly remove this top section. Yeah, and that's kind of what I suspected on this. You can see all these plastic bits in here. This is what's left of that seal. It's supposed to be one big solid piece, but there's just a bunch of broken up plastic in there. So yeah, so far looks like we might be able to reseal this one. Now we're going to inspect the Geroler section of the pump. All right, we just pulled the shaft, you know, it just slides right out. Little love tap to get that to break apart. Now, this is our Geroler section. And if we push out our rollers here, they actually look pretty good. Trying to get one out for you so you can see here. And that's the part that we would inspect, and that actually looks really good. So I am not real concerned about the Geroler section of it. And our lower plate actually looks good too. So yeah, it looks like this so I'm happy with this motor. We are going to order a seal kit for it, and we're going to get this one rebuilt, throw it back in there and get her running. So stay tuned. let me go in and find a seal kit. I didn't order it yet because I had to tear it down to make sure it was even rebuildable, and I believe it's going to rebuild just fine. Okay, this is where you pause the video and go get some popcorn. We're going to tear into this real quick, and by the time we're done, you should be able to reseal one of these by yourself, no problem. This is it. We just got our seal kit in. We got 4, yeah, they look like O-rings, don't they? But technically, these are square cut seals is what they're called. I mean, hell, it's your seal kit. You call them whatever the hell you want. This is the seal that actually came apart. This is what all those little bits we were looking at was this white outer piece, and all this black plastic is what I found inside the case drain filter. And that's how I was able to diagnose this. And again, the symptoms of this motor was just real low power, didn't have any forward or reverse power. I mean, it would drive forward and back with help from the other side, but it wouldn't be able to turn on its own. So, you know, first thing I always do is check the case drain filter and see what kind of material you have in there. If it's plastic stuff, usually can get away with the seal kit. If it's metal, then we probably got a problem with the Geroler. O-ring and backup ring here. Couple O-rings, outer seal, and another O-ring there. So, let's see. I know we already tore it down once just to inspect it. Let's take it back apart real quick. Okay, again, can you see our mark here? This is important to mark it, and I'll go back over that again. But we'll see on the inside why we mark that. So. Alright, remove our outer flange. Here's our O-ring and backup ring. That'll go in there. Okay, let's just take a look at the case drain filter while we're looking at it. I didn't even remove it off the flange plate here. But this is what traps the debris to keep it from going back into the pump if we have a motor failure. And it's important to check your machine and see if you've got one of these on there and make sure these are clean. But kind of a little brass 10 micron filter. This one's a new one, but this is what was full of all the black plastic material. See, it came through the pump and got caught all in here before it made it back to the pump. So when I pulled that out, saw all that material, that was kind of a dead giveaway that we got a problem inside of our motor. Set that off to the side. This is our balance plate. Not much to see there. Alright, our main drive shaft. Again, I like to tear down in these tubs in case you drop something. Just like we're going to remove our Geroler section right here. And if you'll notice, there's 2 check balls right here that will fall out if we're not careful. Where did I put my magnet? Nope. 1 check ball, 2 check balls. You can see everything stays contained in our little tub here. Okay, Geroler section. This is 1 part number. You can see we have our stator and we have our rotor section. It's a rotor because it rotates. The stator is a stator because it stays in one place. The rotor is going to have 1 less tooth. The star section here is going to have 1 less tooth than the outer stator section. And these rollers here are actually considered teeth. It would be a roller tooth. You don't want to take these apart. I know we slid one out just so we could see. Most of them are very tight. This is very, very tight tolerances. So you're not really going to be able to slide it in and out. But some of these rollers, depending on the position of it, the rollers will be able to slide out. And all we want to do is be able to look inside here at the rotor and the rollers and inspect them, make sure we don't have any bluing from extreme heat, make sure no scarring or anything inside there. And this one looks good, so we're going to stick with this Geroler section. If for some reason you did take it all the way apart, it's important to keep the rollers in the same bore in which they came out. Bottom side of it, set that off to the side. We've got our valve plate. Nothing special to see there. Okay, now we're in our end section. Excuse me. Hey, thanks again. If you know, you know. Alright, now looking at our end section. Right here we've got our shuttle valve. Spring retainer. Here's a poppet that goes on the shuttle valve itself. In the center section here, we've got an O-ring. And pull that out. And in our old parts, we're going to make sure we set outside so we don't get them confused. We're going to move the square cut ring here, our square cut seal. Okay. So our shuttle valve, the other side of our shuttle valve, is going to be right here in the end plate section. So we're going to remove that plug. And here's the other spring and spring retainer. We've already removed our shuttle, so you can see right through there. There's nothing else in there. But it's important that we take the shuttle. I say there's nothing else in there. There's the other side of our poppet. And we'll look at that a little closer in just a minute. But yeah, it's important to pull the shuttle out because we got to make sure there's no debris in there, none of that seal left in that hole that's going to keep that shuttle from moving properly. And then right here on this side of the motor, just plug out. There's a spring. And there's our spring. This is called a low pressure relief right here, and you can't use your magnet to pull it out, so I just use some tiny, some smaller snap ring pliers because it's plastic, so your magnet's going to pull that out. So sometimes it does get stuck in that bore and it's kind of hard to get out, so that's why I use the snap ring pliers. So that's all that's in that hole. Spring, low pressure relief, and of course our cap. Now this is pressure set from the factory. There could be a shim in there. This one does not have a shim, but if there are shims, just make sure the shims go back exactly like they came out. Like I said, just depending on how they set the pressure from the factory. And that's it. There's nothing else in that hole, but we got to check the seat in there that poppet goes into, make sure that that seat is clean and there's no debris, which I've already got this one all cleaned out, and there was lots of that plastic debris in there, but now it's all clean and ready to put back together. That's it on the lower section. Let's take a little bit closer look at the shuttle valve. Hopefully we can see that. So we got the shuttle itself, we got the poppet. See the tapered end there? The tapered end faces inside on the poppet, or on the shuttle anyways. Both sides, they're identical. Just make sure there's no binding or scarring on that. Okay, so what we will do is, again, looking from the back side, we're going to go ahead and drop in, not the shuttle, we're just going to take one of the poppets off the shuttle here. Just drop it in, and again, make sure that tapered end is facing the shuttle valve itself. That one is a little magnetic. And then we're going to put our spring and spring retainer right on top of that poppet. Okay, now we have our outside plug. This is going to be an O-ring that we're going to replace. I'm going to find the right size O-ring for that plug, which does come in the O-ring kit. And then we're going to install our plug. And we're going to go back and torque this. If you're one of those guys that like to torque shit, 260 inch-pounds on both of these plugs. Again, our low pressure relief. Drop in with the spring. See, the ball side goes in with the spring. Again, here's our cap. We're going to need a new O-ring on it. Okay. Alright. Now our shuttle is going in this direction with our poppet on the shuttle here. Spring retainer. Okay, the reason we put that line on the outside, because you're going to see, other than this hole right here with our spring and poppet, we have this hole right here. This is our case drain hole. Now each section that we stack up on here is going to have this case drain hole. That's why each section has to be lined up here, or this pump will not work. That's why we put a mark on the outside to even help us make sure our mark's lined up and make sure this whole case drain hole is lined up all the way up. Alright, O-ring, dead center. On the O-rings, I like to put a little grease in there. That'll make sure they kind of stay in place when we stack this together. Just put a little bit in where we're going to put this square cut. Seal that. Okay, we're going to drop in our first square cut seal. Make sure that fits nice in the groove. Alright, valve plate. I like to use a lint-free towel. Let's clean off the valve plate real good. We've inspected the valve plate too, and it looks really good. No scarring, no damage on it. Here's that case drain hole I was telling you about. And you know, we know this is the bottom section that goes toward the outer flange. So again, let's line that hole up with that hole. That's going to sit up a little bit because of our spring and retainer on our poppet there, or on our shuttle valve. Okay, next our Geroler section is going to have two square cut seals on it, one on each side. There's one of the old ones. Flip it over. There's another old one. And just a little grease all around to keep it lubricated there. Okay, one on that side, turn it over. Same thing on this side. Okay. We know this is the section that goes to our valve plate because it's got, of course, our valves in it. What are we looking for next? That's right, this case drain hole right here. The Geroler section has a case drain hole that we also have to line up. Okay. And just, I'm double checking my outside marks too, just to make sure. Alright, now these little tiny check balls. You pull your Geroler section out, just make sure you don't lose these. You can order them, of course, but just keep an eye out for them. Okay, balance plate. Lower section, top. Again, case drain hole. Line it up. And then, of course, our outside plate. This is the old seal here. This is like a two-piece seal. Got an O-ring back up on the inside. So we're going to use a good amount of grease on that because we got to flip this over, right? And we want this to stay in place. Another square cut seal. More grease. Fits nice. And then this seal here, the root of all our problems. Again, more grease so it'll stay in place so that we can flip this over. Nice. Case drain hole. Oh man, what did we forget? Damn drive shaft. Okay. Balance plate, make sure, I just dropped that, but make sure that's still lined up on the case drain. Alright. That's all there is to resealing that. Almost. Get everything lined up here. Just wiggle your bolts in, it'll all bring it in line. Okay, I just want to run all those bolts down. We're actually going to torque those in a triangular fashion. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, if that makes sense. We're going to do it one round at 45 foot-pounds, and then your second round will be 65 foot-pounds. And then we've got one more seal. This will be the carrier, well, between the motor and carrier seal. And see how it's kind of dome shape there. That dome faces toward the outside, and that one just snaps right in. Alright, she is sealed. We've got to tighten up our case drain filter housing here. Again, we got a torque low pressure relief. Let's say 260 inch-pounds. Shuttle cap here, 260 inch-pounds. And again, out here, first round 45 foot-pounds, second round 65 foot-pounds. And then we're going to get her in and get it tested. Yeah, I think that's all I'm going to do on this video. I'm not even going to show because I'm very confident this is going to work. For some reason it doesn't, I'll let you know. But again, if you have any questions on this one, let me know. This is an early design motor out of that S205. It's called a wet bolt motor, which means These bolts are flushed in hydraulic oil, so they call it a wet bolt. If you pull your motor out and you notice that you got bolts coming in from this side, that's called a dry bolt motor, and it's very similar, just got a little bit different balance plate in it. But you know, this video should help you, you know, walk right through that one too, even if it's a dry bolt. But stay tuned, because we got a lot more motors coming up. But let's go get this one in and get this thing running. Thanks for watching.